This is the third and final video about the history of Honda, and it's the craziest one yet. When people talk about Honda, many think of mopeds and reliable little student cars. But for Soichiro Honda, all of that was just a tool for his true passion: racing. He literally lived for adrenaline and dreamed of proving to the world that the Japanese could not only turn wrenches, but also bend the entire motorsport world to their will. So buckle up, let's get started.
In 1954, Honda attended the Tourist Trophy on the Isle of Man as a spectator, one of the oldest and most dangerous motorcycle races in the world. To put it in perspective, the 60-kilometer course runs on regular roads lined with stone walls, houses, sidewalks, and not a single safety zone. Mistakes aren't forgiven there, and riders risk their lives every single meter. Today, the average speed for the record lap is 217 kilometers per hour, and the top speed record exceeds 330 kilometers per hour. These races have already claimed more than 260 lives. But it was exactly this challenge that Soichiro saw as his calling. When he returned home, he gathered the entire Honda team and declared, "We will build the fastest motorcycles in the world and win on the Isle of Man." For a company with neither the technology nor the money for racing development, it sounded insane. But Honda took out massive loans, assembled his engineers, and threw down the gauntlet to the entire world. In 1959, Honda made its debut at the Tourist Trophy with 4 riders and RC142 prototypes. The best result was 6th place in the 125cc class, but the most important thing was that all the bikes finished the race, a sensational achievement for rookies in these deadly races. This was the first step in building Honda's reputation outside Japan. By 1960, Honda already took 4th, 5th, and 6th places in the 250cc class, and 6th to 9th in the 125cc. And in 1961 came the breakthrough. In both categories, 125cc and 250cc, Honda claimed all top 5 spots. The world was stunned. In the early 60s, Soichiro Honda looked at his company's success in motorcycle racing and said, "Motorcycles are great, but if we want to prove we're the best in the world, we need to go where the most advanced technology and fastest cars are: Formula One." For Honda, this was madness. The company had just learned how to build decent road cars, and now they were aiming straight for F1, the pinnacle of engineering. But Honda didn't know how to stop. In 1962, he ordered engineers at the Honda R&D Center to start a secret project codenamed RA270. The budget was tiny, and they had 0 experience. No Japanese company had ever built an F1 car, and no one in Japan knew how European motorsport technology worked. First problem: the engine. Honda didn't want to buy someone else's engines, only their own from scratch, to prove Japanese craftsmanship. They chose a 1.5-liter V12 because F1 regulations since 1961 limited displacement to exactly 1.5 liters. But creating a 12-cylinder engine was an engineering nightmare. Valve timing, balancing, cooling, lubrication, everything had to be invented from scratch. Engineers spent months working through the night, perfecting cylinder sizes, V-angles, and the fuel system. Second problem: the chassis. By then, Europe had already developed monocoques like the Lotus 25, but the Japanese didn't know about this. They built a traditional space frame chassis instead, with all components mounted to it. To reduce weight, they used titanium and magnesium. Fun fact: even Ferrari wasn't using so many exotic materials at that time. Third problem: aerodynamics. Honda didn't have a wind tunnel, so engineers would head out at night to the highway between Hamamatsu and Tokyo, strapping scale models to the roof of a car and measuring how the air flowed around them. It looked like a scene from a wild anime: Japanese engineers with instruments, wind blasting in their faces, riding on top of a speeding car. Fourth problem: tires and suspension. No Japanese company made suitable racing tires back then. They had to make a deal with Dunlop. But Honda's engineers designed their own suspension geometry to keep the tires from overheating. They also became the first in F1 history to introduce a fully adjustable double wishbone rear suspension, unheard of at the time. Fifth problem, steering. They wanted ultra-precise steering for quick changes of direction on the track, but had no idea how to get the perfect steering ratio. They disassembled steering racks from European sports cars, ordered samples from Europe, and spent months manually copying, refining, and testing. When everything was finally assembled, it was a shock. The first RA270 in testing showed insane power, almost 230 horsepower at 12,000 RPM. By comparison, leading F1 cars like the Ferrari 156 had about 190 to 200 horsepower. But the raw engine overheated quickly and kept breaking down. In 1964, after refining the concept, they built the RA271, a 1.5-liter V12 with 48 valves, mechanical fuel injection, and a unique plate-type lubrication system for high revs. The car weighed about 450 kilograms, lighter than many competitors. The engine was mounted transversely behind the driver, revolutionary for the 1960s. The engineers borrowed the idea from their own RC motorcycles, where a transverse engine helped lower the center of gravity. In July 1964, the RA271 debuted at the German Grand Prix at the Nürburgring. Ronnie Bucknam was behind the wheel, and although the car didn't finish, the gearbox failed, the very presence of a Japanese car on the F1 grid was sensational. European newspapers ran headlines like, "The Japanese invade Formula One," and that was just the beginning. A year later, with the improved RA272, Richie Ginther gave Honda its first F1 victory at the 1965 Mexican Grand Prix, and it shocked everyone. The Honda car was the first F1 machine to cross the finish line with both a Japanese engine and chassis, proving that the world would never be the same again. But in 1968, Honda left Formula One, and there were several reasons. Hickskull Catus D. First, during the French Grand Prix, Honda fielded an experimental RA302 with a magnesium chassis. In its debut race, the car crashed. Joe Schlesser died in a horrific fire as the magnesium ignited instantly. This tragedy shook Honda deeply. They realized such incidents could destroy their reputation and carried enormous risk. Second, internal priorities. In the late 60s, Honda decided to focus on motorcycles and mass-market cars. Japan was in an economic boom, and the company saw huge potential in civilian vehicles. Formula One consumed enormous resources. Third, regulation changes and challenges in Europe. Shifting technical rules and fierce competition made participating in F1 increasingly expensive. Meanwhile, Soichiro Honda was focused on bringing the brand to the global consumer car market. So after the tragedy, and in light of strategic priorities, the company shut down its F1 program in 1968. In the 70s and 80s, Honda left and returned to motorsport, but when they came back, it was always to dominate. From 1988 to 1991, together with McLaren and Ayrton Senna, Honda engines took 4 consecutive titles, winning 15 out of 16 races in 1988, one of the most dominant seasons in Formula One history. Ayrton Senna, on a Honda engine, became a legend, the man and machine made for each other. In the 90s, Honda left F1 again, but only to return in the new millennium. After a series of tough years in the 2010s, Honda signed a deal with Red Bull. And while at first there were failures and exploding engines, Honda doesn't know how to give up. They rebuilt everything from scratch once more, defying conventions and expectations. In 2021, Max Verstappen, driving with a Honda engine, snatched the title from Hamilton in an epic season finale, returning Honda to the top of Formula One. And all of this in the spirit of Soichiro Honda. If you build something, build it from scratch. If you make an engine, make it rev higher than anyone else's.
If you compete, do it to win. From the Tourist Trophy to Verstappen's title, 60 years have passed, but the philosophy hasn't changed. Honda doesn't just make vehicles. Honda makes speed, roar, and madness.